Hello and welcome to the first in a series of community conversations for X-Ray TV. Today we are joined by Mr. Paul Knowles, Sr., known to many as the Mayor of Northeast Portland.
Honorary.
Honorary Mayor of
Honorary
Northeast Portland. We're also joined here by Mr. Ken Berry, as well as Mr. J.W. Friday. And throughout our time today, we'll discuss Mr. Knowles' contribution to the social, cultural, and musical livelihood here in Portland. If possible, I'd like to go ahead and start from the top. Paul, I understand that you came out west from Arkansas to the Northwest as a young man. You eventually made your way to Portland, where in 1963 you took ownership of the Cotton Club, an establishment many have credited as laying the foundation for soul music in Portland. Perhaps you can fill us in on that journey that brought you here.
Born in Huntington, Arkansas, moved to Fort Smith when I was 7 years old, and then graduated from Lincoln High School in Fort Smith, Arkansas in July of 1949. 21 days later, I was in the United States Air Force, stationed at San Antonio, Texas, Lackland Air Force Base. And then I was shipped to Spokane, Washington, to Fairchild. From Fairchild there, after 12 years in the service, and not 12 years in service, but working in Spokane, I came to Portland and bought a nightclub.
I understand that the Cotton Club was known as the only place in the West with wall-to-wall soul. Perhaps you could describe the venue as well as the national and local acts that played there.
Yeah, you have a spot and you want to have a little catchy name or something, So I came up with that, the only nightclub on the West Coast with wall-to-wall soul. And that's how I would close every night, with that phrase. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, you've been to the only spot on the West Coast with wall-to-wall soul. And then everybody would. I said, "No, you guys don't have to go home, but you got to get out of here." And then we close the doors and everybody go home.
That's something. I mean, a lot of great acts came through there. Perhaps you could speak to that.
Yeah, well, we booked most of our acts. We did a lot of local talent that came right out of Portland, but we would bring in acts from California, Los Angeles. Luva Sun was my agent down there. But I remember the one night we had booked Etta James, and she came over for rehearsal. And my drummer had already called and said that he was going to be ill that night. So where am I going to get a drummer tonight? So guess who lives across the street? His name is Ronnie Steen. He's still around, playing everywhere in Portland. Great drummer. I went over and said, "Ronnie, you ever played a show?" He says, "No, I haven't." I said, "Well, you got to play one tonight. Get your sticks. Come on over. Ed is over here to rehearse. And so he came over and he got to playing that night, and it was just like real loud though. Etta said, "Stop the music. Stop the music." She says, "You little so-and-so, if you don't give me a backbeat." Ronnie said, "Hey." And that's Etta, because if you saw the movie Cadillac Records, Etta didn't take no mess.
Yeah.
She didn't take no mess. Anyway, she was one of the biggest acts that became big. One of the acts that came big because it was the Chitlin Circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody had a place to go and work and get your trade down. And then once you got your trade together, then you went for the big time. I remember the night my wife went to see Sammy Davis Jr. And she came back from the concert. She said, "Honey, Sammy said he might come over." I said, "Sammy who?" She said, "Sammy Davis Jr." I said, "Honey, Sammy Davis Jr. is not going to come over here. About an hour later, he walked in. "Oh, Mr. Davis, how are you?" I said, "You got any food?" So I took him out in the restaurant. He ate. Then I went back. I says, honey, guess who's here? Sammy's here." She says, "Sammy who?" Sammy Davis Jr. Anyway, he stayed there. He got up and did 3 songs with my band, little 3-piece combo. And then that night he stayed there until about 4 o'clock, taking pictures with everyone that wanted to take a picture with him. It was really, really, really nice. We have a young local group that went national. They call themselves the Three Little Souls. Anyway, they played at the Cotton Club. They came in with 5 people, and their manager was Teddy Anderson, which was their brother, a cousin. I said, "Teddy, I can't pay 5 people. I'm sorry. If you can cut it down to 3, I can put them to work on weekends. And so they came back about 6 weeks later, and were they ready? Oh my gee. They put on a show, and everybody just started flocking to the Cotton Club, to see
Wow.
these three little kids performing. Well, finally, I couldn't pay them as much as they wanted. And, after that, they started getting big, and they went to work out at the Three Star out on Barbara Boulevard. And somebody filmed them out there, and they sent it to California. They gave it to Sammy Davis, and then Sammy, of course, brought them down there. They started playing in the Copacabana. It was a great group. They later had to change their name to Sunday's Child
Mm-hmm.
because Three Little Soul was already registered. So it was a good venue going through the Cotton Club.
Mm-hmm.
We had all types of musicians, come through. The night I opened up in 1963, it was about August, in the middle of August, my opening night. Mel Brown was my drummer. He was going to Portland State. So Mel Brown and Hank Swarn,
Mm.
along with Benny Wilson, that was the band that was playing that night. And man, it was just amazing. Mel was, he's great now.
Mm-hmm.
He was even great then.
I'm sure.
Hank Swarn left and went with Earl Garner. Started playing with him, and of course Mel wound up with the Martha and the Vandellas. From there, the Temps, and then they went to the other group, not the Temps, the Four Tops.
Ah.
Then he went to the Temps, and then of course I'm watching TV one day, and Diana Ross is there in the New York City, the big park. What's the name of that park in New York City? Central Park.
Mm-hmm.
It's raining so hard, and Mel Brown's on there playing the drums.
Wow.
Right up there. I said, oh my God, almighty there. They almost called the concert off, but it was so many people who
Sure.
were putting this concert on. Anyway, Mel is one of the premier drummers. He's still in
Mhm.
Portland, still working.
And at some point, Mel and Hank joined forces with Billy Larkin. Billy Larkin and the Delegates. Did they play in your venue as well?
Yeah, after Benny left, then of course Billy Larkin, he walked in with some house shoes on, looking like a homeless person, and I didn't really know music, so he says, I'm an organ, like Dig, I'm an organ player, and I'm looking for a job. I said, well, Billy, why don't you go in there? The organ's up. We had a B3 on stage. Why don't you go in there and show me what you can do? I didn't know whether he could play or not. So I called Mr. Thompson, which I had purchased the club for. I said, Mr. T, would you come over and check this guy out and see if he's really an organ player? And after he came, he said, yeah, Mr. No, he's a real deal. I said, okay, Billy, we got a job. He says, okay. Billy, come on, let's go get you some clothes. Because when he left Alaska, he was in Alaska, and he left Alaska. He left with the clothes he had on. His shoes was ragged. It was just terrible, Got him a haircut, got him all set up, and he went to work that night.
Wow. That's something.
And could play.
Yeah.
They put that. You're familiar with Pygmy, the song that
The
they
45.
recorded?
Yeah.
Oh my gee, that song, it went national.
Mhm.
It was.
World Pacific.
I saw Mel probably 8 months ago. He said, guess what, Paul? I said, what? He said, I got a royalty from England. Somebody recorded Pygmy.
Really?
So here it is 50 years later.
Wow.
Somebody re-recorded the record, and
To
of course
reissue it. Or,
ASCAP, they pay everybody. Everybody gets paid once you
sure.
once you do something with music.
Well, we're fortunate to be sitting here with two wonderful musicians from around this period in time, Mr. Ken Berry, Shades of Brown, J.W. Friday from the Cavaliers. Perhaps both of you would be willing to speak about your experiences with the Cotton Club.
Well, for me, I was a young, inexperienced child trying to find my way in the world of music. And graduating from Jefferson High School in 1967, playing in church, but I wanted to expand just a little bit more. So I heard about this place called the Cotton Club. So I went down to the Cotton Club and ran to the mayor of Portland, Mr. Paul Knowles. Mr. Paul Knowles said, "You're too young to come in here." I said, "But I just want to get some experience, learn how to expand my music repertoire, and if I could just sit somewhere, I don't have to be with the adults," because I had just graduated from high school. He let me come and sit on that bar 50 pounds lighter, of course, and looked through the little crack. And there I saw Etta James and Billy Larkin and all these fantastic people. And that's what got me started in playing the B3 Hammond. And that was 1967 when I graduated from high school. From that time on, I was one of the fortunate ones. Every once in a while, he would invite me to come fill in. You know, when somebody was absent, and when he moved the Cotton Club up to Geneva's, just down the street on Williams Avenue.
Yeah.
But what a joy it was for me, because with his very unique spirit about himself that resonated professionalism. So I'm truly grateful to be sitting here, to witness and absorb and contribute just a little bit what he has done for me personally, and also hopefully represent some of the other people as well. J-Dub?
I think that this went appropriate because I was hoping you would say something before I did, because you got there before I did. But as a young man, and it's funny that you allowed the kids to get to the door. And the discipline, we never got past the door. You got to understand, he was for real. He was too young, we couldn't get in. And he gave us, the Cavaliers, unlimited. A great opportunity. And I had the sign for years that said, one night only, the Cavaliers Unlimited. And James Thomas, Shag Thomas's son, our trumpet player, he tried to get that. Ricky Brames tried to steal it over the years, but he got lost in transition. But I wouldn't be surprised if they wouldn't have it hanging at their house in a room they didn't show me. But you gave us opportunity, and you brought up Billy Larkin, and we got in because we were musicians, and Billy was teaching me how to play with my left hand. And you emulated him so well, because I said, man, I don't have a left hand. He said, you got 5 fingers. And so he began to show us. And I just started hearing Pygmy in my mind when you brought it up. But not just that, Paul, just everything in reference to not just the musicians, but the signature that you brought to entertainment in our city. The class, you and Geneva, side by side. And that tag team is still of the greatest. They talk about power couples, a power couple with great class, style, finesse. And for me, another thing that I always remember, when we were trying to get the King holiday established, and it was a conversation of where should we have the people to come to. And I remember we were in a meeting, and I said to Shaheed, I think we need to go to Geneva's. That was our plug-in, our space. Right. Again, with class and style. You at the door. No, you can't come in. You're not old enough. But in the whole thing of all those years, glad to have experienced it. I tell my kids all the time, we've experienced the greatest. I don't know what you guys are getting, but we've experienced the greatest, and that's who you are.
That's right. And that's the second time I've heard the name Mayor. So let me straighten out how
I there we go.
The name of being the mayor of Northeast Portland. Roy J., head of Clean Slate and the African American Chamber. He came in one day. He was getting his haircut. He said, "Hey, Mr. Mayor." And he has that voice, "Hey, Mr. Mayor." I kept walking. He said, "Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor." He said, "I'm going to start calling you the mayor of Northeast Portland." I said, "Roy, I'm okay." No, you're going to be the mayor. You the mayor. I'm making you the mayor of Northeast Portland. So about a month later, there was Dr. King birthday, and the television people came over to see how I felt about Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and so they said, "So you're the mayor of Northeast Portland, huh?" I thought, "Oh my God!" So then after that, of course, the newspapers got it. The Oregonian and Scanner and Portland Observer, all the newspapers use it. So now you go on Google and type in my name. It says Paul Knowles, the honorary mayor of Northeast Portland. So that lets you know that you can't believe anything you read on the internet. But I tell everyone, well, I guess I'm your mayor because you guys didn't vote me in, and so you can't vote me out,
Last year, we gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award with his name on it to make it nationally recognized. He is the mayor of Alpina. So can't nobody change that.
Yeah, now it's expanded to the whole area now. So I guess that's the way it goes.
That's right. And to clarify, Ken runs the World Arts Foundation, which often gives out these designations. Perhaps you could speak to that.
Well, over the years, one of the things we've done, thanks to JW, we actually started with KBOO Radio many years ago. George Page, which is another person that was very connected to our mayor, did a lot of radio, and he kind of gave us the opportunity to be on radio. JW, matter of fact, gave us the name Berry Brothers. He was on the air on Saturday nights on cable, and JW asked us to come cover for him. And he said, I want the Berry Brothers. Well, instead of saying Ken and Kevin Berry, he said, so we've adopted that name. Talking about people giving names out, okay? And so we name each other, you know what I'm saying? So we accepted. But JW had us on KBOO radio, and George Page, thanks to his leadership at the time, 1980, prior to Dr. King's birthday becoming a national holiday, George Page insisted that we come together and preempt the programming on KBOO radio all day on the third Monday of each January is the designated holiday by the Martin Luther King Commission. And he said we need to come together and preempt all the programming. Thanks to JW, Lanita Duke, Dupree Casey, and some of the folks that passed on before us. Ben Franklin, and so many people. We came together and we preempted all of the entire day dedicating to Dr. King, bringing in the mayor of Albina, bringing in our parents, bringing in different schools and community members, and we celebrated the importance of why should we honor Dr. King. And that's how the annual Martin Luther King program has moved to where it is today after started in 1980 with George Page. 5 years of that, first of all, on KBOO radio in the warehouse, okay, in the studio, and expanded to where it is today.
And still broadcasting on
still
KBOO.
Stream
it right on.
Still broadcasting. I think that's a key word. We talked about George Page, and to the forerunners, Eager Beaver, and Brother Allen. These are the people Jimmy Bang Bang Walker,
Nathan Probate.
You know that. Oh man, that's a Seven of Diamonds, and that's a whole nother show. but that's a great lead in, and I'm gonna throw this back to Paul in a second. But we're so thankful for Ken. Ken is a front runner in radio. Ken was on FM when we didn't even have FM radios. That was the reason my mother got an FM radio, was because you were on FM radio. And I'll never forget that when I came to the studio that night. Wasn't thinking about radio, but what an experience. You know, and it's gone on like that. Thankful for you, Michael Vance, Roy J., so many others, and Lanita Duke with Grassroots News Northwest. Her consistency, and she's an award winner herself in many different areas, not just radio but also video. We've been around a host of magnificent minds, and then the best thing about it is we have such great mentors, and I see how I brought that back. We have such great mentors, and Paul, you have touched some young people in our city in a great way. How many schools are you connected with?
Oh my God, I don't know how many schools but the best one that I ever had was at Humboldt.
Okay.
They told me they were having the Junior Achievements have a program there, so I asked if I could join. So I went over and I did a Junior Achievement program. So our job was to build a city. We had all the cardboard cutouts and everything, you know. And we had the kids decide where everything was going to go. I said, we got to have a city hall. We have to have a railroad station. We have to have an airport. We have to do all the things that you actually need, you know. And we actually built a city that the kids that was there. But what amazed me about that was it was so many kids in the school that had never been downtown Portland. They had never been downtown Portland. So we had a chance to really teach them about how a city runs. You know, you have an industrial area, you have a residential area, you have parks for parks and recreation, you have this, you have that, you know. And that was at Humboldt, but the next one was at Jefferson High School. So we set up a business where we were going to sell stock and invest in the business. And the money that came in, you know, we were going to give it to a nonprofit. So we started selling chewing gum, and it lasted for about 3 months. We had to discontinue the program because chewing gum was everywhere on the floor, the basketball floor. It was in the bathrooms. It was I guess the ladies would go in, you know, and they chewing gum. They put it on the mirrors. But it was a great experience, and all the kids now walk in, and they're all 30. 40 years old, you know. They come in, Mr. Knowles, I remember one young man came in and says, you know what, Mr. Knowles? You know what you said at Jefferson High School? He said, if you're driving a Range Rover, if you're driving a Range Rover, a Land Rover, and you have a landlord, you're on the wrong road to financial success, because you're buying his house and you bought your Land Rover, and within 5 years it's going to be half of what you paid for it. But if you have a home, it's going to go up in value. He said, guess what, Mr. Knowles? I got me a house. He said, I'm still going to get my Land Rover. But he actually told me that he actually listened to that. And I've had guys, one guy stopped the big 18-wheeler one day right in the middle of Martin Luther King. He came over, he says, could you tell me how you and your wife stay together? Because I can't stand my wife and I love her. And I don't want to leave her. I don't want us to break up. But I said, man, all you got to do is do what she tell you and you'll be all right.
My goodness. What experience.
Yeah.
I heard the name Geneva's mentioned a couple times earlier, and just as a point of clarification, we began talking about the Cotton Club, but Geneva's was sort of an extension of the Cotton Club. When you closed the doors of your first venue, you moved on to others. Geneva's was located over here on Williams, and throughout the 70s and into the early 80s was also a home for musicians. As I understand it, it started out somewhat as a social club, but later began to house a lot of local musicians. Perhaps you could speak to that venue.
Let me go back to tell you how I acquired Geneva's. Bess got the liquor license, and then she couldn't handle the crowd. She called, she said, you want to buy my place? I said, well, what are you asking? You know, she told me, and I asked my wife, I said, honey, we got a chance to pick up this other spot. She says, well, okay, if you think you can handle it, you know. And so we went on and purchased it, you know, and then we started featuring just on Sundays. We had a B3 organ. His name was Count Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Dennis Bradford, which he was 12 years old.
Wow.
And Dennis come in and play Sunday night. Had to be out by 9, you know, so it'd be from 5 to 9. And Dennis is still playing drums, you know. He's on the tour now. He just tours ships, the cruise lines. Yeah, that's what he does now. And he has a brother that plays too. So his brother go out and stay 6 months, and then he goes out and stays 6 months.
How about his father playing trumpet too? I remember
oh my God, yeah, he was quite a musician.
What's his name? Is it Bobby?
Bobby Bradford,
right?
yes,
Yeah,
Bobby Bradford. We had the musicians back there, Bobby Bradford, Cleve Williams. Oh my gee, those guys were musicians. You know, they really were. Anyway, Geneva's turned in to be the spot. And everybody after work, that's where they came, to Geneva's. I remember one day a gentleman said, Paul, I'm going to have to stop coming here. He said, my son, we were in the car one day and I'm with my wife. And my son says to my wife, Mommy, that's my daddy's spot right there. So it became his spot, you know. He didn't stop coming, but he just wanted me to. He just wanted to know that that's why you drive by and you see someone's car and you stop in. And I remember one night I got a call. It says Commissioner Charles Jordan, which was a wonderful man. You know, he's responsible for our park department the way it is today, and we have one of the most beautiful and organized parks departments in the country. The way he set it up. He put the swimming pool inside of Dishman Center down there, not Street Center. And so they called and said, I said, is there a birthday? He says, no. So the commission wants to learn how to do the hustle. That was a dance then, like the electric slide and the wobble and all that. So he came over. We taught him how to do the hustle.
The city commissioner.
The city commissioner. Yes. Right. He would walk in for lunch because we had a soul food buffet line.
Right.
We have those big old ham hocks, and we have greens, you know, macaroni and cheese.
Now, I've heard that this lunch buffet was the first location that a live DJ performed in Portland. Is that true?
Yes, and that would be, his name is Tony Silby, because I had gone to New York. I'd gone to New York and I went down to Studio 54. That's where the DJ started, you know, and everybody, we didn't get in, but we went down there, but I could see through the door and everybody knew what was happening. It was just a guy spinning records, you know. And so I came back and Tony Silby, I told him about it and he said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, you got this little closet right here. It's kind of like that. And we just put a turntable in there and you just spin records, you know."
Wow.
And so Tony was, he was my first.
What year was that?
I don't know. Years go away.
Yeah, right. That is just incredible.
One of the other things that I found fascinating, I remember when you were the Grand Marshal for the Rose Festival Parade. And being an old drum major, that was something. But more than that, even before that, being a Royal Rosarian.
No. I'm not a Royal.
You're not a Rosarian?
No, never was.
Okay. I thought you were a Rosarian.
Everybody thought I would be.
Yes. But it fits. But Grand Marshal definitely was. And it brought us all out again to the parades.
Yeah, you know, everybody knows Brenda Braxton.
Yes.
And so we're downtown and she's up there on her deal. She says, we came around the corner and she says, "Oh, and there's Paul Knowles, the mayor of Northeast Portland. Well, everybody knows Paul. Let's talk about something else."
Well, you can't overlook the fact that many times when you look at the Trailblazer games, they're taking shots at Paul Knowles.
I'm glad you
and
brought
the
that
newspaper
up.
as well.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's why I wore my Golden State Warrior hat tonight. I wore it on. I am a warrior for life. Right. And he is a trailblazer and had the best seats. It was all you could always know he was there. That was outstanding. But I did that with respect to you because I know you are a true fan and I'm a true fan. So yes, indeed.
There you go.
And speaking of, I think there's a great segue. There's a great story in that when the Blazers did win the championship, they decided that for an after party they would like to come to Geneva's.
Yeah, they did. Well, what happened was the night before, I went down on 7th and about Siskiyou, and there was some barricades there that they were working on the street. I thought, I'm going to barricade the street tomorrow if they win. So I had a pickup. I put them in my car, my truck. I bought them up. And so I called, his name was James Bowles.
Yes.
I said, James, he was the first man that had the food cart, you know. And the name of his food cart is Mr. Sweetmeat.
Yes.
And he sold hot dogs, you know. That was his name. I said, James, I want you to sit up in the street across from Geneva's tomorrow. I'll pay you $25 for sitting up if they don't win, but if they do win, then you're on your own. He says, I got it, you know. And so after the game, of course, after we won the championship, I blocked the street off, and cars, you know, I just went out and blocked it, and people started gathering in the street. Mm-hmm. And then Mayor Goldsmith came by. He said, Paul, what's with the street blocked off? I said, Neil, you wouldn't want people driving through here. People's all in the street, you know, and everything. So he called downtown and had them bring out some real barricades, you know, barricade the street. And then Lloyd Neal was the first one that arrived. Yeah. Then Corky arrived, and of course, then Maurice Lucas. Mm-hmm. Then they kept coming. Yeah. So it was a great day, great day. Then when the news media arrived, you know, we're going to go national. And then everybody just started screaming and yelling, dancing in the park.
Wow. I was on that. I was in there, man. I saw myself. I was very happy about that. That was the signature that day. As soon as it was over, I'm going to Geneva's, man. And that was it. That was it.
It was a great, great, great day. It really was. It really was. Baruti Arthur Reese said he was in Oakland at that time, and he kept seeing me on TV, you know. And he always wondered who I was or whatever. And, of course, most people was wondering because to see an African-American on the front row like Spike Lee, probably around the country, that's the only one they know. But right. I'd travel around the country, and people said, man, I think I know you. I said, really? You ever been to Portland? No. I know Portland Trailblazers. You're the guy that sit on the front row. I never did tell my wife how much those seats cost because we wouldn't have been down there. But we had a good run. 30 years. 30 years.
Wow. Season ticket holders. 30
years. Very, very, very good times in Portland.
Yeah. It certainly is a pleasure, and we're grateful for all of you being here today in our first community conversation for X-Ray TV. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, just like I said, y'all don't have to go home, but you gotta get out of here.
Yeah. We do one with mine, please, while we're here.
Sure.